Google Ads used to be about keywords, bits, and optimization. Today is becoming something very different. Some might argue that it is about AI. AI is writing ads, AI is targeting the audiences, and even AI is deciding where the budgets to go. Is this correct or not? At the same time, businesses are maybe asking a bigger questions. Are we still controlling advertising, or are we training the machine and hoping for the best? In this episode of Forum IT, we go beyond tactics and dashboards. We explore the real state of Google Ads in 2026. What still works, what became noise, and what most companies misunderstand about performance marketing today and generally strategy. And before we begin this conversation, if the conversation like this help you see business, marketing, and technology with more clarity, subscribe to the ITalks show channel and turn on the notifications also. Because good decisions start with better conversations. My guest is John Moran, one of the most respected Google Ads strategists globally, managing over $150 million annually in ad spend across 83 countries and 195 industries. At least this is what I get from his LinkedIn account. But he will tell us a little bit more. It is not going to be about beginner conversation, not also about very technical conversation, but what I want to talk with John is about clarity, decision, and the future of digital acquisition. I am Csaba Demeter, the host of this episode of Forum IT. Welcome, John, to our studio, even if it's remote for the moment.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. This is awesome.
John, I prepared a couple of questions for you, just to have an idea and a direction of our dialogue. But before we go there, when we are recording just the other day, yesterday, Google had the Marketing Live event. It was a quite interesting event, and some very interesting things came up to the surface, to say the least. What are your takeaways from this event, and what impacted you as a listener and also active player in their field, which is Google Ads?
It was being in this industry for, now like over 12 years in Google specifically, and actually being in Meta 2 years longer than that, 14 years. What I've seen inside of digital marketing as a whole, like you said, with AI taking over everything, is it just got about 10 times more complicated, but then at the same time, about 20 times simpler, depending upon who you are. Mm-hmm. And I think from the perspective of the business owners and the people who need freelancers, agencies, advertisers, digital marketers, etc., I think the business owners should focus on a very small portion of what Google or even Meta, because Meta had their own kind of like Meta days at the same time. And both of them are almost saying the exact same thing, that engagement is the name of the game. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that independently and at the same time, because AI is simply just your echo chamber and my echo chamber. So AI chatbots, for example, are large language models. Those large language models essentially learn who you are, refine the content, and deliver content that is might be engaging with you. That's also YouTube, and it's also Facebook, and it's also Instagram. That's also now the homepage of your Google, which is called Gemini. Mm-hmm. So what we have to understand as advertisers, marketers, as business owners is that those with the message will win. The digital marketers, the agencies, the freelancers of the world need to understand that your client is no longer your vendee as your vendor. Your client is now your vendee's audience. It's a much different way of thinking about things, because we're not using things like bidding strategy, ad sets, keywords, negative keywords. All of that, in my opinion, is dead and gone. And I have about 15 different use cases. I've scaled about 15 different companies this year alone with nuking the entire account in Meta, never even touching Google, and scaling these companies by only using Meta messaging. The reason why is Google, in so few words, essentially say that the people that are going to be engaging with your content, YouTube, 80% of the people are on video, on social media, make a buying decision. Like all of the stats that they use to sell their auto targeting, it skipped the most important part I think that business owners need to hear today is what are you telling these people? Because the echo chamber of the feed, the echo chamber of YouTube, the echo chamber of Gemini will only serve them what they deem to be necessarily relevant to them. You cannot get to these people through targeting. It's over. AI does the targeting now. Andromeda, generative ads model called GEM, performance max demand gen. You have even the demand gen comparable performance columns.
Yeah.
All of these columns and all of these functionalities that are coming out today now say if the people love you, they will see you more often. Now, this sounds technical, but go back to Meta and Instagram today as an example. If you click an ad on Facebook, if you click an ad on Instagram, you get bombarded by that industry's ads. You click on a YouTube ad, you get bombarded by that industry's ads. Now, where a media buyer agency, et cetera, may not actually understand this is the way that you now have to communicate to your audience is through what they call hook rates on Meta. And then Google will use demand gen performance max to remarket 65 to 70% of the time. I have tons of case studies. If we'd like to, anything that I say I can back up and have backed up, and it's also live on YouTube and like the Tier Lab podcast. So this is all stuff that I've been doing for months now. I'm not saying anything that I can't prove. So hopefully that gives you validity into hearing the message. But what we're seeing is that because the platforms will not engage people with content that they do not like, there is no media buying tactic to just do that, just spend that money. Meta will stop it. Google will stop it. Meta and Google are both publicly traded companies that have the stock price tied to their population. Well, what happens when you have the entire population? You have to protect the user base. How do you protect the user base so you do not annoy them with creative and content that they don't need? That's why you can't just grab an audience of people who like tennis, put a 50% off tennis racket sale, and that doesn't happen anymore. People believe it does. What happens is when new users aren't engaging with your content, Meta and Google will sell your old audiences back to you because they say these people are already taken by the Nikes and Adidas of the world. But your shoe brand didn't nail this audience interest and hook rates and hold rate, and they didn't get the click-through rate. The engagement here is low. So you get your old customers back. So people are like, well, why can't I scale? I'm seeing a lot of recurring customers. And it's because they believe that they can exclude their existing customers, target new customers, use a bidding strategy that convinces them that it's working. And then what ends up happening is the ad simply goes wherever it would like. And if you're measuring simply by ROAS and CPA, well, the people that are buying from you will continually buy from you from the same message is your old traffic. So by demystifying and simplifying everything, essentially Meta, Google, YouTube, all of the paid media platforms, TikTok, I mean, Pinterest does it now. I have all of the data to prove this. That when we actually, could I screen share just one time, or is it something I can reconnect with? I don't know if that's possible. This is impactful. Be a little messed up during this, but I believe this to be the most important thing that anybody can ever see today. And what this is the total effect of changing a message for a company.
Okay.
And the effect of that message changed across all platforms, including attribution. I have a small equity in a company called Northbeam.
Okay.
Northbeam is a third-party analytics tool. This is what all agencies, media buyers, freelancers, everybody but the business owners, every single person cannot explain this. No, I've never met one person that can actually explain this. And I think I understand why. If I look at a first touch attribution, 1 day look back window, accrual, basically looking at this as harsh as I can. And I look at the message update that only happened in Meta. The company scaled about 137% since just the March 10th. So about 2 months ago. The marketing spends up 50%, ROAS up, blah, 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 all this stuff, yay, green everywhere. Okay, cool. This is the major shift. Google Ads has only spent 5% more money. But the revenue by channel, Google Ads went up 146% to $374,000. The only message change I did was on Facebook and spent 73% more. And that also made 158% more. So I didn't give one more dime to Google. You can see on the graph what I scaled was Meta. It's the blue one. So
what does that mean in plain English, John?
Absolutely. If you bring a person to the site that wants to buy your product and you're counting all of your activity on just CPA and ROAS, every channel will take credit for that sale, or you will not see any credit anywhere based on just click engagements.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're trying to say I'm winning the hearts and minds of people who've never met me before, you do not measure that by what's the ROAS, what's the CPA. And that is 95% of every agency's job is look at the ROAS, look at the CPA. Not necessarily, I didn't have to touch Google to double it. That is what grows businesses and save money. Media buyers usually charge by ad spend, so they do that by default. Meta, Google, all of those people know this. And they say, well, if everyone's just going to use ROAS as the be all end all metric for the Google teams, the Facebook teams, the Pinterest teams, the TikTok teams, the Instagram teams, the Meta teams, why don't we just everybody essentially count all traffic to the site? Mm-hmm. Well, on Google, you pay $5 a click. If 1/3 of those people are new, you pay $15 a new visit. How much can you afford at $15 a new visit one time? That's the question nobody asks.
John, you said something which really synced quite heavy in my head, and it was a big bang. You said that keywords, embedding, and old school targeting, it's dead or close to dead.
Yes.
Okay, we put, instead of this engagement, we put instead of these other signals, as you already mentioned. And some might argue that, okay, yes, John, that's perfectly okay for the e-com, but for B2B, high-ticket lead gen companies, or lead generating companies, that's not valid. That's still gonna work. Is that true or not?
Well, I have another use case I'd like to share.
Please.
This is probably one of the perfect use cases for that question. Company called RTA. I'm a part of it. They're fantastic people. I've helped them for the last 5 years build their company. So if you call them and say, did John Moran do this? They would even say yes. So we started 2020 and we're able to scale our costs all the way up to 10 million. Mm-hmm. And we spent a lot of money. And this was great about this whole process is this exactly helps everybody regardless of platform. And I can do it because of this reason. We have spent $10 million since the beginning, and we have spent $3 million on YouTube, $400,000 on demand gen, and $500,000 on PMAX. However, on the 12th of April, I started a new campaign, my first campaign in Meta, and I will share with you what that looks like.
Lead gen campaign in Meta, right?
This company sells $20,000 outdoor kitchen lists, custom built for your house. So this is not like, you can be B2B, lead gen. I mean, this person here is a Real Housewives of New Jersey. They even have famous people. That's what I'm going to love about this example.
Okay.
Now, this company has already spent millions of dollars. They're already big. Now, let me just do this here. Just select this here so it's a little easier to see. Sorry, I have to speak in screen share because the examples are so unbelievable that if I say it, you're like, no, that can't happen. Let me see the actual result.
No worry.
So inside of here, my cost since April 12th is down $2,698. My imports of my closed deals here, the initial quality good, are up 20% for $260,000. Now in Google, I haven't made one change. Like I spent $2,600 less, made $250,000 more, and I just did so in like 30 days. I made $250,000 more inside of Google because I brought new people to the website starting on the 12th. With this new campaign, and not $250,000, I only spent $50,000. But that $50,000 changed the message. The message that I don't believe anybody would really believe that this would work, except for me, is I actually started to just give you visions of what your life will start to look like. Mm-hmm. You want to basically entertain. You want to have people coming to your. Sorry, I don't know why this is all inside of here. Let me do this in there. You want to have people. You want to be an entertainer. So you don't know how much this costs, but you're getting the want a backyard that actually brings people together. And there's like music and lifestyle, and you're cooking pizza and you're having fun, and you still have no idea how much it costs. But this is what summer should feel like. So I'm introducing our brand, which is a $20,000 outdoor kitchen for lead generation, and I'm trying to build the vision from the feed as to what you could be in your life if you just take the first step. You can entertain, you can cook, you can host.
So basically you were presenting the end result, the dream, what they were dreaming, right?
I'm introducing it that way. Yeah, you could be like this, and this could be you. Now, after I started to explain what you could be like, I started to explain how. Well, that sounds good, John, but how does it work? Well, you know that after you contact us, you could build it in one day. Start at 9, and you could be done by 5 and hanging out with your friends. And so even a designer can come to your house and actually help you build the outdoor kitchen.
Okay, so you moved the visitor from top of the funnel, middle, and the bottom of the funnel.
Not at all. I actually did nothing. I'm not even targeting anybody. There is no targeting, and that's the problem that's the part that I'm gonna pause there. Inside of the audience, like I didn't even suggest an audience. Basically, just like I don't know, none, all languages, minimum age, great. Just if they're in the United States, this is all auto targeting at every stage of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel isn't like, did they add it to the cart? No. There's no such thing of that in Meta. I can suggest an audience, but I've left my audience suggestion open, all genders, even if you're 18. Now, why would that make sense? Because Meta doesn't care if, let's just say John Moran is really looking for an outdoor kitchen. Well, okay, that I would fall here. You're just going to be basically telling me how easy it is. Now, if I don't know where an outdoor kitchen is, I'm here, but the hook rate means that I would engage with the proper area that is resonating with me. But I'm not going to force you top, middle, and bottom. I'm just going to explain each one. If you want to move your way through that, you can, because you're engaging with the ads. Meta's only going to show you as you're engaging with. And if you're engaging with top, middle, and bottom, it will do the targeting. It will do the selling. It will do everything for you. Media buying is dead. You just need to have the content and the messaging, but the messaging has to be in a sales environment. Now, once I started this, and I'll just do this. We already know that we save money in Google. And if we look at my total ad spend on Meta, since we started this, I have spent $12,000 less. So I spent $11,000 less in Facebook. I spent $2,600 less in Google. And if I just go to the actual result, because all other metrics are BS, in my opinion, this is what we see for the year to date. And if you look here, look at April 12th, which is when I started my new Meta campaign. I have saved you about $15,000, and I doubled your $20,000 outdoor kitchen lead flow because I changed the message and I did not do any digital marketing.
But some might argue, John, that yes, it's okay, nice result and achievable, but only after you already mentioned that brand spent quite some money on social media and Google Ads. So there were a lot of history and knowledge about what he is or he is not, and what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he needs as a good lead, and what is a bad lead for him. If somebody starts from the beginning, or there's a middle-sized company and not spending that amount of money, so the platforms do not have that amount of signals already gathered, will this also work?
So in a situation like that, it would be a little bit more like Vermont Glove Company. I ran this test for a year for that particular question. I now just scale companies in terms of questions. So May 14th, I started my Andromeda model, which means if the people like it, the money will come. And I did this again with no media buying tactics for Vermont Glove starting May 14th. This month has been 1 year. On this 1 year, where this company is not a very large company, they sell gloves and it's a solopreneur, and I think he's in like Maine. But I have my one campaign, my Andromeda, and this is spent all $93,000. The spend allocation, again, $93,000 a year is not a high amount of ad spend. Now we increased to $64,000. And so this has been the result of that. And you can see Facebook's up 345%, Instagram's up 157%. I didn't actually give any money to Google, but it still just counted 50% more because rising tides will float all ship when everyone likes each other's traffic. And that $65,000 added about $1 million. So pretty good. So, and all I did was take one campaign, one ad set. You see all $93,000 here. One campaign, one ad set, and I am currently running 139 ads at the same time. Why? Because every single thing I said got the engagement which is why every single ad works. Our messaging has never changed 140 different ways. So I have 140 perfect ads with all $20 CPAs. And I've been doing this for over a year. Scaled the company $1 million. I have 15 more examples if you like, but this thing is the greatest thing I've ever done.
Okay, so let's build on these examples. And I already mentioned at the intro that you have you are active in more than 195 industries across 83 countries. Did I get it right? More or less?
It's actually a little bit more than that nowadays, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So you have a lot of experience, or you had in the past, and you are still actively involved in huge number of projects, right?
441 projects currently, yes.
Okay, well, that's like some number.
I can prove it too, if you like.
Question. What patterns are universal, and what separates companies that scale profitability from those who only spend big budgets but don't scale?
Absolutely. Does your message, when looked at in a complete holistic scenario, what you're spending on, not what you wanted, not what Meta did, not what they created, the money you spent in the last 30 days, if that doesn't sell you, you have failed as a media buyer business. You failed digital marketing. Here's what I mean. And it's very, very, very simplistic. Every single company can do this right now.
Okay.
We'll take one of my companies as an example. Let's just do, this is a company here. I joined in January and started scaling the crap out of them, and it worked really, really well. So I said, hey, we just need to change your messaging. And so when I joined here, this was the time period that I joined compared to the previous period. All I did was just speak to testosterone replacement and GLP-1, and I did this extremely well. We added $1.2 million since January 1, scaled it, nice little boogie. The problem, though, is that the only thing that people are resonating with is a very simplistic message that says, we got drugs and they're cheap. So where are we spending the money on? Let's just do this. Let's say yesterday. Okay, 4, 2. Okay, so right now, if you look at the 20 grand, this is pretty much the majority. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's, at least half, and the other ones are about, the other stuff. This is your messaging as a company. What is your messaging as a company at this week? We have drugs and they're only $129 and they're cheap. Next message. We got drugs and they're actually pretty cheap. This one here, I'm not sure what he's talking about, a clomiphene. That seems odd. Now, let's skip that. We got more drugs and they're cheap. We got drugs and they're cheap. We got drugs and they're cheap. So the branding we should do this month is we have drugs and they're cheap, and then have some guy talk about something called a clomiphene. That sounds like a good message to your brand. If that doesn't make sense, you have failed as a company. Failed as a marketer. That is my challenge to this industry. I don't care what you meant. I don't care what happened. I don't care what that Meta spent the money wrong. No. We have to change it to this. What is diligent, John Moran will always win in my scenario. What I mean by that is, when your messaging is right, what are you going to use to sell people at the bottom of the funnel? And diligently test that. What do I mean? Well, in my last test in April that talked about what we needed to do as a company, we found out that I can spend $10,000 at the bottom of the funnel asset, and this happens. And they say, well, John, see, $5,000 of that $10,000 went into one ad. And I said, no. All of these ads are the exact same. They're all bottom of the funnel surgical static comparisons. I have 48 messages, and they're all the same message. I won. I delivered 48 messages, 10,000. I just found out that people like this one the best. Well, what's this one? Well, this one actually talks about how it's actually want to work from home. That's much different than cheaper than college, cheaper than college, cheaper than college, cheaper than college, cheaper than college. If you listen to the market says, whoa, I can do this from home. I don't care. It's cheaper than college. This is the direction of your messaging.
So you basically,
this one was cheaper.
Yeah. You're also using Google Ads, or in this case, Meta, of course, to do research for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't do Google anymore. Google killed itself this year. It's horrible. That Eric Yavin's company.
Wait, John. You don't do any more Google? That's what you're saying?
I can't. You can't hire a Google agency anymore. That's not possible. Not to actually scale a company in a realistic scenario. And the reason why I say that, let me do this. I'm going to give everyone out there proof that no one can give you. Only John Moran can give you this proof. And I'm the best person I know in Google Ads, unless someone proves me wrong. But my last test says April 12th. I did not make one change in this entire account. Says April 12th. I did this. Actually, I haven't made a change since March 10th. I have not touched this account since March 10th. And you'll actually see all campaigns. You do all, not campaign, it says all. I mean, whatever you want. I did not make one change in this entire account. So why does John Moran say, don't worry, you don't have to touch anything? I can even track it 10 different ways and prove this theory every single time to everybody. But once you hit the message, Google will simply go after Facebook traffic, which is why I can spend 3% difference. You want to have all new customers, that would have 500%. You want all purchases, that would have 500%. You want all returning customers, that would have 500%. You want GA4, that says it went up 186. You want Shopify, that went up 137. I don't care, pick your poison. What I am explaining is I don't need to spend any more money because Google will charge you your own sales back to you at astronomical prices. So the con artist tricking you with ROAS, do not feed the con artist money. It's dead, it's gone. I can scale you 500% in a month and prove that I didn't even touch this account, because I changed the message on Facebook and Google just said, wow, I don't even need to go after my traffic. You want to see more brain damage that no one understands is going on, which is the reason why I'm now charging so much money to tell you is throw away your channels. It's stupid. This here was a test I ran in January. And if you can explain this or even understand it, I will pat you on the back. But this is my test in January because I scaled Meta during this week back in January when we took over this company. Here's the fun part. When I scaled Meta, 50% new, and when I scaled Meta, 100% returning, my non-brand standard shopping campaign, first click new customers went down. How does my first click new customers go down, but my new customers went up 32% and my returning customers went up 77%. No one can explain this. How did my returning customers go up 77% when not one person is Googling our brand? And I can prove it. Why? Because Google just sells you your own conversions back to you. There's not even one branded term in here. So it has become basically, if anybody brings anybody to your site, all channels will remarket them. Okay, so that's very simple. Let's just make sure we have a great message on the best channel that brings us the most amount of cold traffic. That seems like an easy idea. Digital marketers will never understand that.
You made me curious. I don't argue whether this is true or not. I kind of believe what you say mostly. But is this what is just happened to, let's say, put it this way, Google, or they're in the phase of migration towards something different?
This happened 1 and 2 years ago. 1 year ago, 2 years ago, Andromeda came out. We're going to be supercharging automation. This was back in December 2nd, 2024. This is when I actually introduced this to digital marketing. I've been using it one day before then. I was a beta tester. Then last year, November 10th, the generative ads model comes out in Meta. This is the recommendation that actually uses what they call the Wukong principle. Here, the Wukong architecture that Cornell University built, sold it to Meta for $100 million, basically says, hey, as long as you give us taller and wider layers, like the same messaging more and more times, we can actually scale this through over state-of-the-art models, which means over digital media. And then Google, at the same time, did this. Google Tag Manager won't even fire if a person comes to your site and actually doesn't click accept all cookies. And so people that are in Google don't even know that their Google Tag Manager isn't even giving them the right amount of add to carts, page visits, anything. You can't even use an ecom prod ID to see if a person even looked at a product on your site. Your tag never even fired. And if your tag is firing, it's only firing in model data, which means this is what they think happened. Well, how do they target users and actually grow your company if the best they can get to is this is who we think got to the site that day? So that's why when you ask it to say, hey, if you don't even know who came to the site today, why don't you just give me conversions? They say, well, Bob added something to the cart. Let's just go remarket Bob. Bob bought. I got 100% credit. Where did Bob come from? Facebook. I own 2 different attribution companies. I can see this clear as day for the last 2 years. Just people are cognitive dissonance in our social in our industry means the facts I see go directly against my core beliefs, so I reject them. And I've just been scooping up tons of cash from all the clients who just said, that guy doesn't understand this, I'll go with John. It's been fun, really.
Okay, I have a challenge for you. You don't do anymore what you do. It's hard to believe to do so, but you are going as a CMO for a company. You buy an actual company and you're going to be the CMO of that company with a limited budget of, let's say, how much? 150K per year. Mm-hmm. And you are in the service business. What you would do to make the most out of this money?
Sure. What service?
What service? Plumbing.
So local, about 20-mile radius?
Regional.
Small regional plumbing. Mm-hmm. What size regions?
In your case, because you're talking about US, I don't know. What is a decent regional or okay regional for you?
Let's say Southeast.
Southeast. Okay, Southeast.
Florida.
In our case, for example, 5 counties in Romania. Okay.
5 locations.
Yeah.
Say. Okay, 5 locations in a region. Now, who's the competitor in that region?
Sorry, competitor?
Who is the competitors in the region that are bigger than us in that region?
Okay, that's a good question. There are local players, traditional ones, which kind of charge because they have a local monopoly, let's put it that way, and they think that they can afford it.
Now, my process would check Google Trends and see how much search traffic is for those users. Are they popular? Do people like them? What the reviews in Google My Business? How's their social comments? Is everything, do they people like them, know them, and trust them? Or are they just a big player because they're the only ones there?
Mm-hmm. Come again, please?
And the scenario I'm asking is, would you say that these people that we're going up against as a competitor are like, known, and trust, or they're just the biggest one and no one else has a choice?
Mostly they are the biggest one because of the choice, and there was no other choice in the neighborhood, which is kind of rare, I guess.
It's okay. All scenario. I can't help unless the specificity. I'm at 440 industries because not one of them overlap. So I have to do everything custom. There is no such thing as cookie.
Okay.
Because people are not cookie cutter. So in the Southeast region, if you have 5 locations and there is a large entity there, but they're not they're a household brand, but that's just because they are who they are. What is the main call to action and offer on their website? Do you know in this scenario? Typically, it's pre-consultation.
On their website or the new company website? Mm-hmm.
Our competitor's website. What's their offer that they give to the masses?
We are here and we can help you when you need. Okay. We are close to you.
They are taking the efficiency path. Mm-hmm. Hey, you call us, we're there. Okay. So what I would look at is I would analyze the core demographic and core business of that location and say, if this is who we're going up against, we have to change the hearts and minds through messaging that we are better than that, but we have to give an offer that is better. So I would say, what is our unique value proposition, unique selling proposition? If I ask you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, you have 5 locations in Southeast Florida, but I'm sorry, there's a Nike down the street that is spanking you right now. So this is pre-traffic, pre-website, what are you going to tell people why you're better? Let's start there. In your scenario, why is this new company better? And if they're not, I wouldn't even work with that new company. I can't digital media hack the hearts and minds of people. That's not possible. That's what the agencies try. My question is, why are you actually better as a company?
Whoa, okay. And is this process, I really like it, that you make it custom, you put a lot of questions and you figure out what are the USPs, the unique selling proposition, what are the differentiators between us and them, and to change their hearts and mind, because of course you cannot say we do exactly the same as the other ones, just we are company A and they are company B.
Because Google's going to charge you $80 a click, and to pay $80 a click to say we're here too is a bad go-to-market strategy, in my opinion, regardless of what channel you're on.
Okay. Is this process valid for any type of business? So we talk about service business, but is it for, I don't know, e-com?
Let me ask you this. Why would it be different? People buy, why would it be different? Let me ask you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
People buy where they want to buy, they see the value. If the money that they're going to be spending is exceeded only by the value, you don't need to discount your brand, but you only understand the value of the company through messaging.
Okay. So if I want to answer all these questions and I'm I should talk to you, the business owner, the logistics person, the internal marketing person.
My process, I go to the owner and I say, there's 2 steps that we could do. It's either you or the best salesperson at the company. So I first ask, who is the best salesperson at the company? The owner typically says it's me. And I said, okay, if it's not you, who else would it be? Because you have to trust that person and it's not me. You're paying me money. You don't trust me. You're paying me though. But I have to get the messaging extracted from, if I were to redo your bathroom, does your wife like it too? You need to have a synergistic handshake from that point on, that If you can sell me your service and I can create it into a story and sell it back to you, and you say, yes, that's the right messaging, I don't care what channel the digital marketer sticks it on. But it has to be appropriate for that need of that goal of that customer, that location, that competitors. That's all stuff that I can help with as well. But the first thing that we would have to ask is exactly right. Who is the person that I can use to say, okay, you told me why your company's better. Yes, that is the 800-pound gorilla, but we are 24/7. I will send you a picture of the person coming to the front door. When they get there, they're going to ensure that you have no emergencies, everything you need. They're also going to check every single other thing in your house to ensure that there's no other threat. They were going to guarantee it. They're also going to give you a 50% discount if they're wrong. I can sell it all day because the other person just says, yeah, we're here. So the salesperson is going to sell it. Our feeds are just automated salesperson. Act accordingly.
Well, you already talked about the elephant in the room, which is AI, and which is not an elephant, it's a huge dinosaur. It's not a dinosaur, it's like a new dinosaur, let's put it that way. And it's not an accident that it's here to be. We are feeding it and we are creating it and we are developing it, which is, some might argue that it's a good thing. Some would say it's a bad thing or terrible thing, but we are not here to decide whether AI is good or not. So my question is that in all this process of figuring out what are our unique selling propositions, how to position ourselves versus our local, regional, national, European, global competitor, in your experience, you already include AI in your work? And if so, how? Or if not, why not?
I will only include AI if I need to expand upon an idea. That's, in my opinion, that's where it is. AI is a large language model that interprets what it can perceive as content. My opinion, my strategies that I execute are not found on anybody's content. That's why I charge so much. And that's why you're like, this sounds weird. I'm like, yes, but I have nothing but 100% success rate. I can guarantee it. I can prove it. You have 2 more hours. You can go through every single one of them and why. But that's the part where I get really frustrated with, is because you can't digital marketing hack sales. Marketers are bad salespeople. Salespeople are bad marketers. Unfortunately, AI says, unless you can market to the right person and sell them automated, you won't win. So how do you take a marketer and turn it into a good salesperson in agency type of environment when your client's remote and the person doing the work is also in a different country? And that's why I think that we failed ourselves as an industry. We've outsmarted ourselves with data. We've lost the sales aspect of why you and I buy shit every day. I like your face. How about this? There's no bidding strategy that exists to convince me to buy one stock, not 2. I'm sorry. And we got to stop forcing that.
All right. I also noted down an impossible question for you. And with the rapid development of, the performance marketing, AI, whatever we will see in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's your time frame, I will challenge you to think in the next 3 to 5 years. Probably nobody knows where are we going to land. But from the digital marketing point of view, what do you think in the next 3 to 5 years will disappear first? Or are we also talking about agencies who will disappear?
I believe that there won't be any need to go outside of your company for digital marketing in the very near future. Agencies, freelancers, those are the type of people. My job, when I said, hey, I'm honest with myself, I can't help. If you hire me for Google, I can't even help you anymore. I can prove to you that I can scale your company without touching it, but I cannot help you anymore. Now, you can run Google, absolutely, and it will scale, absolutely. But the ceiling you hit is much lower than my ceiling, and that's why I charge so much. Because it is a singular point of entry for a small group of people. That's Google search, but that doesn't grow brands. So it can be part of the conversation, but to put a Google person to say, grow my brand, that is where the owner of the company made a mistake in choosing that person. Now, the owner of the company says, hey, I need a CMO to project the vision, and I need to have a person to execute our vision in a paid environment, and they can tell me if people like it. You don't need anybody else now.
Okay.
Okay, so this only go where people like you. That's the problem.
Okay. So this is what's going to change. And I really like, and I will ask you the same question I asked different other guests here talking about digital marketing in the past. Some things like Jeff Bezos was, I think, mentioning at one point that it's important to know what will never change and build your business on those building blocks. Okay, they might be adapting, but so what will never change in your point of view in the digital marketing universe in the next 3 to 5 years?
Everything will change in the digital marketing universe, but what we have to really apply that stat to is what will never change is how people buy something. That hasn't changed for hundreds of years.
Even in the agentic era, when we will have agents buying for us?
Well, go through a real scenario.
Sorry?
How are the way that people are convinced to buy a product? A human. Then what changes in their psyche? What change happened in the last 100 years? Do I need to still attract your attention? Do I still need to hold it? Do I need to educate you about our unique selling proposition, unique value proposition? Do I need to provide the value over the cost? And I also need to have good customer service in order for you to feel comfortable with your purchase and repurchase. Now, did I say the words Instagram, Meta, TikTok, Facebook?
Nope.
Would that have changed in 100 years?
Nope.
The way you do it will, and that's why I said Google's dead. And everyone like, what? Because the digital market will change every 3 months. Andromeda came out in November. No one knew about it. Gem came out in November last year. No one knew about it. So this has been changing, but I believe that our industry has such deep-rooted bad habits and cognitive dissonance that we can't actually see the forest for the trees anymore. And the only people losing are the people that keep hiring agencies saying, well, this is my 6th agency I've tried now. Yes, because you can't round peg a square hole anymore. AI says, unless the people truly love you, goodbye, is what Facebook, Instagram. And then Google just says, hey, Facebook didn't bring you anybody, but I can give you good brand. And I can't find anybody either. You don't have the ad spend for me. You get $20 CPMs on Meta or $20 CPCs on Google. So just from the law of CPMs, you have to broadcast your message. Change Meta to TV commercial, right? And people pay $1 million a minute to be on Super Bowl. What's the click-through rate of that ad? And now we feel all stupid, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's still the messaging. It's still where the big money flows. It's still what big brands believe. But unless little brands start to think like a bigger brand, they will always just, why did CPC decrease on Thursday when I thought it was going to happen on Tuesday? Because the targeting, those people will die. They will just literally confuse themselves into a death spiral, and I'm just not playing that game anymore. I went the completely opposite direction and said, you know what? Everything in digital media is going to change, but you know what will not? The way people buy. And I just adapted it to an ever-changing environment. That's why I think I've been staying ahead.
Well, there are a lot of things to digest and to build on it. John, we are closing to the end of this episode. Is there anything else regarding digital marketing? And I know that you also know a lot also about offline marketing. Yeah. What we want to talk about, but we have not had the chance yet.
I always like to leave someone with an action. Yes. Because I just gave about 1 million people brain damage. Yes. Step 1, go into Meta, because in my opinion, that's the highest amount of broadcasting a brand that typically companies run. Go inside of Meta. Just look at the last 30 days, sort your spend descending, pick the majority of the ads that are spending the majority of money. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. And say, if I watch these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do I get excited about my company? And if you, the business owner, does not, you start there. Very easy homework for everybody. Call your agency and be like, you just show me the last 30 days where our spend went, like descend. I don't care. Yes, this is going to, because the ads go wherever they want now. Andromeda proves that if you can suggest an audience, but if they don't like you, they're going to go wherever they want. So the message is going to go wherever it wants. That's fine. Where did the spend go and what was said? People like that. But if it's like, hey, my name is John. Now, blue is a great color. The sand at the beach is really nice, and I just bought new tires. If you feel like you had an aneurysm, that's because my message was fragmented, and you're not going to be excited about why I'm here trying to sell you toothpaste. Okay, that's what we skip.
Okay, so step number 1, we check it. If we like, we go forward with it. If we don't like, we replace it, right?
You recraft your narrative. Mm-hmm. Would you have spent that money? Or this is the other part that I think we just have to skip. There's never a time where Meta spent the money wrong. you put it in an environment for people to like content and get the money you spent on. If your agency says, well, Meta did this, fire your agency. They allowed that to happen because you can do ABO on an ad. It's just ad spend a message. It became very simple. What are you spending and what's the message? If the agency or the freelancer or internally in the team says, well, Meta did this, stop them right there, because YouTube will show you how to stop that from happening. Meta doesn't do anything on its own. You set daily limits, caps, bidding strategies, budgets, ad sets, where it can spend on ABO campaign. You can do anything you want. There's never any Meta mistakes. It's just, I crossed my fingers and it didn't work. That is what typically we say when Meta does something. That is where I would say that's not a medical professional, because if I go in to have my brain tumor removed and the doctor says, well, the scalpel cut it wrong. What?
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for all this. I wanted to say golden nuggets, but these are not nuggets. These are bombs. And talking about interesting things, we have a closing tradition already. Every guest leaves a question to another guest. It's written in this book. Not knowing who he or she will be. And the last guest left you personally a question. Quite interesting. Okay. What are the 3 essential things you would do as of tomorrow to improve your business performance?
I first would go and redo all of my competitor research of who I'm going up against. And I would grab a family member. And I would say, if you look at their business content as messaging, you look at my content as business messaging, I only want you to answer these 3 questions. Who would you buy from? Why isn't it me? And what would make you buy from me? That's the first thing I would do, just if I had to do it all over again. Okay. Because that's typically the biggest thing. The second thing I would do is I would focus on a congruency across all channels. There's no reason why your Meta, Google, and TikTok should not all be using the same ad if it's a proven message. And that's where I think that we skipped step 1 of what's the message and went to step 2 and say, well, it's 12 people over there like it was. Testing doesn't exist. 10 people like something doesn't mean everyone does. So you have to pick a diligent message. And that it leads me to my third thing is be diligent with your spend and your message. If an owner of a company sold something, your only job as a service provider is to amplify that same message, not try to modify, tweak it, and confuse yourself and make it overcomplicated. I wouldn't have ever looked at inside of an ad platform for the last 10 years of what I know today. I don't look at CPC. I don't look at CPA. I only look at ad spend to message now. And first thing, I own 2 third-party attribution companies. I don't use either one of them. They both suck. I'm sorry. So take it from the horse's mouth. I spent 5 years learning what everything I should not do. Now I know it's very, very simple. Who am I going up against? Do people like me better than them? And have I said that to people? Once I did that, my whole life changed.
Talking about changing lives, you definitely put some ideas in our heads and questions into our heads towards internally in the company and also towards the agencies we work. I'm Csaba Demeter, and we talked with John Moran regarding multiple things. I prepared also an outro for this episode. Has nothing to do the outro, which is just growing up in our prompter. So I will not read that outro or discuss that because it has nothing to do what John actually said to us. But keep this in your mind. Engagement and also all this information, what you can have from a thorough, well done competitor analysis. Because all these informations are the building blocks of your future success of your company. Thank you, John, and thank you for all of you who listened or watched this episode until now. If you like what we did until now and you want us to continue or help us, you can do the free and easy thing. Just subscribe to our channel, and if you also want, you can also share this episode. Thank you, and I will join you, or my colleague Alin, in the next episode of Forum IT once you dive into the next episode. Thank you, and keep listening Forum IT.